I'm gonna try to explain what happens to your body at low intensity in a very simple way without it sounding like it's a biology class. So one of the first things that I learned about low intensity training is that it affects your capillary system. You can look at this as the blood finding new streams or new paths to kind of flow in. It means that the more time you're spending at low intensity, the more roads your blood will have. This will obviously make your muscles work better for a longer of time and being able to push more. And so I was taught that if I was riding my bike or if I was running at low intensity, this would happen. But then obviously the question came to mind, what is low intensity? And so low intensity, before I started using a heart rate monitor, was kind of just the pace that I would be able to talk at, or I would actually be able to sing a song or whistle. So I remember we were told that if you can sing the national anthem while you're on your bike, you're at the right intensity. And I have to tell you that low intensity training might be some of the most boring things you're doing because it's not a fast pace. You might not necessarily feel very strong, and you have to spend a lot of hours doing it. So when we were working out as speed skaters, we would probably have about 80% or more at low intensity. And this equals around 800 hours a year of low intensity training. So whenever you might hear that an athlete has been training really hard this year, it's most likely not really hard in terms of intensity, but more in terms of the hours that he or she put into it. A big part of the capillary system expanding is obviously also kind of strengthening your heart. And a lot of people might think that you need to do VO2 max training to improve the capacity of your heart, but that's not necessarily the case. That is a part of it, but you will also improve the capacity of your heart a lot just by doing low intensity training. Even though you might not go very fast when you're doing low intensity training, it's actually an important part of you creating a better economy in your running or cycling or whatever sport you're doing. Because when you are doing something for a very long time, you will automatically learn how to do it in the most efficient way. So whether I'm on the bike or I'm out running, I will constantly improve my technique or the way I'm running or the way I'm cycling, just because I am spending so much time doing it, but also because I will look at ways for me to kind of run faster or push more without actually going up in intensity. And there's nothing that will improve your body's stamina in terms of putting in hours and being able to work out a lot as low intensity training. And if you want to do well at any endurance sport, you will have to put a lot of hours into it, whether that is 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, 20 hours or 30 or 40 hours. What you need to have as a foundation for being able to handle this heavy load of training is a lot of low intensity training. And if you don't have this as a foundation and you go straight into high intensity training, the chances are that you will get injured, you'll get sick, and your progress will not really be there at all. Maybe in the beginning, but then it will stop pretty quickly. So the low intensity training is kind of the foundation for all the other training. It is a balance of low intensity and high intensity that needs to go together. And by building this foundation of low intensity, you will be able to handle more of the high intensity and also more of the low intensity training that you will need going forward. There is a reason why most athletes in what they call the preseason, or when they're kind of building up at the beginning of their training, will start doing a lot at low intensity. There might not even be hints of high intensity training in there because the foundation is supposed to be built at the beginning of the year. And if you're not a professional athlete and you haven't found your perfect weight yet, There is obviously also a good reason to do low intensity training when it comes to fat burning, because nothing will have you burn calories in the same way as when you're doing low intensity training. This might sound weird, but if you want to lose weight, you should just do a lot of low intensity training. By doing the same movements all over again and doing it for hours, you will develop more muscles and the muscle groups that you are using. You might not see a big change in the volume of your muscles, but the muscles that you have, they will be stronger and be more prepared for what's coming next. This does not mean that you should skip your leg day or your gym workouts, but just know that you're also getting a lot of strength from being on your bike or being out running, being out rowing, whatever activity you're doing. You might see that some people or some athletes are able to do less low intensity training and more high intensity training and still improve or have a lot of progress. This is because we're all very different, and some people will need less and some people will need more. I'm one of the people who needs like a lot of low intensity training. There is a reason why before my marathon I almost solely did low intensity training. I had threshold trainings every now and then, but I did not even have one every week on average, I think. And then you have people who are not benefiting as much from that. And you will typically see this in middle distance or sprinters because they do have some different muscle fibers and it's easier for them to handle the heavy load that high intensity training is. To most people, it's not really a problem of not getting your heart rate up enough. But as soon as you're getting into shape, you might feel like you have to really push to get into your training zones. Sometimes this might be a sign of you being a bit too tired, having trained a bit too much, because your heart rate will go down a lot as you are training more. If you're under a lot of stress in terms of your training, chances are that you will wake up with a lower heart rate or you will have a very low heart rate on your trainings. At one point when I was working out a bit too much and I was pushing a bit too far, I remember having a heart rate of 44 while I was on the bike. This is obviously extreme, but just know that if your heart rate goes down and you're really struggling to get your heart rate up to your normal levels on an easy run, that is a red flag and you should really consider taking some rest. My low intensity is from about 110 to 145. I need to make sure that I'm at least above 110. So typically I would be very happy if I'm somewhere between 120 and 130. I'm always aiming at not going over 145 on my runs, on my easy runs. And my maximum heart rate is about 190. So then you can kind of do the math yourself. And I really recommend going into a lab, having your heart rate checked, see what's your maximum heart rate, and figure out your zones based on this. Because obviously we can use this rule of thumb of singing, talking, whistling when we are doing our activity, but it still would benefit you even more if you're putting a lot of work and effort into this, if you use the specifics of your heart rate zones. So if we were to sum up what the low intensity training actually does to you, we would say that your blood gets more paths or there will be more streams of blood in your muscles. Your heart will be stronger. Your muscles and everything in your body will get stronger. You will be better technically because you will find more efficient ways of running, burn more calories, and eventually you'll see that what you're doing at a low heart rate will be faster or better than it was before. I genuinely believe that if you were to do only low intensity training for say 3 or 4 months, you would improve your marathon time significantly. Not because you are getting a higher VO2 max, but that is not what is the most important when it comes to performing at that long of a distance. It is important for me to kind of emphasize how safe it is to do low intensity training, especially like if you're doing activities where there's not like a lot of mechanical load. Like running is kind of hard on your knees and your calves and your ankles. There are a lot of things that you need to be careful with even at low intensity. If you're on your bike, especially if you're used to being on it, it's not a big danger and doing a lot of cycling at low intensity. I'm never worried as long as I'm at low intensity of kind of tipping over, getting too much, like in terms of being overtrained or getting injured. I hope this was helpful, that this kind of helped you understand more about low intensity training, what happens to your body, and why you should try it, and also who benefits the most from it. I'm one of them, maybe you are too.